here. I'd like to have a attendance taken, please.
Bob Crow,
Here.
Denise DeGrade,
Here.
Ginny Susi,
That's you.
Keith Cloutier,
Here.
Lenny Doig,
Here.
and Russ Lockley.
Present.
Okay, let the record.
Can we pull Ginny's microphone down so that,
When you talk.
Okay, let the record reflect that we have 6 members, so we can conduct business at this time. Also, I'd like to call to order the Coventry Zoning Board of Review. At this time here, I'd like to point out the fire exits are to your rear, 2 exits to my rear, only take you into the building. So 2 fire exits are to the rear. And I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All those approve, say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? Okay, minutes of the meeting is approved. At this time here, let's see now. Oh, also at the, Guastini, is that correct?
Guastini.
Guastini, that will be postponed to next month. My understanding is because
Lack of quorum.
lack of a quorum on that particular application. It needs the members that were present during the discussion of that application. Unfortunately, we do not have 5 members that were present at that time to conduct business. Okay, at this time here, I'd like to jump directly to new business.
Can you ratify the decisions first, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, ratification of decision. Leander, 14 Jennifer Lane. Ratification for a decision approving a special use permit to park a commercial vehicle, food truck, in a residential R20 district zone.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we ratify that decision,
Okay.
or make a motion rather.
Okay, motion's made. Has motion been seconded?
second,
Okay, motion seconded. Okay, the members that voted on that application at that time was Denise. How do well, we're all set on that, because that was all voted on and everything else. I'm sorry. And that's been ratified. Okay. Boynton, 44 Knotty Oak Road. Sure, not,
we need a vote on the ratification. We didn't
Oh,
have
you
a-
do need a vote on it, even though.
Yeah, the board needs to vote on it.
Okay, all right. All those in favor of the ratification?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Okay, the next one is Boynton, 44 Knotty Oak Road, ratification of decision approving an extension of a dimensional variance recorded in October 2018.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we ratify that decision.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, ratified and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Nays? Ayes have it. Okay, at this time here, then, I'd like to skip right to new business.
You still have full business on here.
Please.
Old business?
Full business.
Right,
We're
we're
gonna-
changing the
We're
order.
changing this order, okay? We have the application of Pettigrew Properties. Can you please read that into the record, please?
The applicant and owner are Pettigrew Properties LLC, location of property is AP 65 Lot 3, 2144 Flat River Road. Zone is VRC, Village Rural Commercial. Existing use is single-family residence, proposed use is same. Applicant is seeking a special use permit to replace an existing single-family dwelling with a new single-family dwelling meeting all VRC dimensional requirements.
Okay, please give your full name and address, sir.
For the record, Attorney John Tagliarini, Zero La Facina, 117 Metro Center Boulevard, Suite 2001, Warwick, Rhode Island.
Okay, Mr. Tagliani, are you gonna give testimony?
I am.
I'm gonna have to swear you in. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth in front of this board?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening. This is a very straightforward application under the zoning ordinance where you voluntarily demolish a property. You have to come and get a special use permit for single-family house in the VRC district. And that's what we're doing. Currently, there is a 30 by 22 single-family dwelling, a detached garage, and a shed on the property. It is our intention to remove all 3 of those structures and replace it with a 36 by 24 property. We meet all the the side yard setbacks. The ingress and egress of the lot is via the right of way. So to meet that standard, we will have parking available on site without any relief needed. Trash will be put out on Flat River Road at the corner. We have existing utilities for the house. It is existing single-family house, it's compatible with the district, and we will not result in any conditions, inimical to the public health, and the general welfare. It's rather straightforward. We don't need any relief on. We will be doing in accordance with DM upgrades on the septic system.
Okay, so you're gonna put a new DM, approved septic system in. Also, this is an existing lot, I take it? Everything's all existing?
Yeah.
Brian, do you have any other input you'd like to put on this application?
No, I don't. It's sort of a quirk of the fact that they are voluntarily demolishing and rebuilding. Whenever you do that, you have to fully comply with the zoning ordinance, which requires a special use permit in this zone.
Now, is that standard for any structure, or is that standard just because this is a,
If you voluntarily tear a structure down, whatever you rebuild has to be done in accordance with the current requirements of the zoning ordinance.
all right, thank you. Any other questions or discussion?
Pretty straightforward, like you said.
Yeah,
I just have one question. This is 2 parcels?
It's one parcel.
It's 1 parcel.
There's a parcel in front of us that we have the right of way over.
Okay, so, all right, so parcel 1 is in front of you,
Yes,
and then you guys are in 2?
that's correct.
Oh, okay,
It's right up against the bike path.
yeah, okay.
yeah, I'd say the structure's already there,
Mm-hmm.
and,
No, they're tearing it down,
right,
Right.
tearing it down.
Yeah.
right.
It looks like nothing but improvement to me.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we vote on this tonight.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. All right, let me see if there's anybody who would like to speak on this application. Is anybody here who'd like to speak in favor of or against this application, or just have a question on the application? Nobody at all here would like to speak on the application. All right, since I see there's nobody here to speak on this application, I'd like to have a vote on this application as presented. Let's see now. Denise, how do you vote on this application?
Approved.
Chair approves. Jenny?
Approved.
Russ?
Approve.
Keith, I'm sorry.
Approved, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, application is approved as presented.
Thank you.
Okay, next business, we have the old business of last night. Guastini, that's gonna be held over, as I said, to next month. And then we have the application of Poirier. The applicant is seeking a special use permit to allow 3 separate commercial uses. One's firewood sales, 2's teaching yoga lessons, and unspecified agriculture classes. And 3 is operating a kennel to breed and sell miniature Julian pigs as pets. Okay, now, we have not heard this, am I correct? We have. So we continued it. Okay, and I have the applicant here in front of me. Would you please give me your full name and address?
Denise Poirier, 6783 Flat River Road, Green, Rhode Island, 02827.
Sir?
Paul Poirier, 6783 Flat River Road, Green, Rhode Island.
Okay, I'm gonna ask both to raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth in front of this board?
I do.
I do.
Okay, is there anything further you'd like to add to this application?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered everything that we're requesting.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna see if there's anybody here who would like to speak for, against this application. Will you please take a seat? Anybody here would like to speak in favor or against this application, or have a question on the application? Okay, I see nobody here. This time here, I'd like to open discussion on this application. I think this is gonna be a tough one because, well, for one thing, I guess this is all, Brian, is this all lumped up into one? You can take a seat, you can take a seat. I mean, do we vote on, it was presented all as one?
It was presented all as one.
Right,
When they are three separate special use
exactly.
permits, you could vote on them all as one, but you need to make sure that you are accounting for each one in your vote and your review of the special use permit criteria.
Okay, so
I would like us to break it up into three pieces.
three pieces, okay. Well, why don't we discuss point blankly the firewood, start right at the top. There was not much evidence given on the sale of firewood other than the wording they wanted to sell firewood. I guess this is gonna be just in bundles, no cords, no nothing.
No, that was what they represented, that they were selling firewood for campfire purposes in bundles, and that
Yep.
it would be harvested from the site, basically from fallen.
All right, so they would not be allowed to bring wood in from another source.
Right,
And
and if-
they'd only be allowed to sell the firewood that's been harvested on their own 3 acres.
So, yes, and I would say that if you want to make sure that that's included as part of the special use permit, that you include that as a stipulation in the special use permit when you vote on it.
Okay. Anybody else having discussion on the
Right,
firewood?
well, no mechanical grinding of any type either of firewood, I think should be in
I-
there also.
I agree.
You know, just like they said, firewood, and we're not selling cordwood, is that correct? Correct. Okay, thank you.
All right, Russ, you got any other questions on this?
No.
Okay, and I'd like to take these one at a time. All right, I have no complaints if that's how we put the stipulations in there on how
Yeah,
this would
no
be,
importing of wood, and
right?
and no mechanical grinding,
And all the
limited
wood
to
would
small
have to
bundles of campfire.
harvest from their own 3 acres.
Yeah.
So it'd be 3 of them. All right,
Yeah, like we have on 117 by
exactly.
by Murphy's.
Yeah, I don't see any problems with that. Okay, at this time here, I'd like to have a board vote on that as a firewood and with those stipulations. Keith, how do you vote on that?
I'd like to approve with the stipulations, Chair.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, Denise, how do you vote on that?
Approve with the stipulations.
I also approve with stipulations. Jenny?
Stipulations.
Approve with
Approve the
stipulations?
stipulations.
Okay, that part of the application is approved with stipulation. Educational instructions is the next one. Staff question, educate with, all right, where are we given a number of students with that? Do you know, Brian?
I don't believe that there was an express proposal in the zoning application. I do believe there was some discussion of it at the planning commission meeting. When they went for their advisory recommendation. I think if I remember correctly, number of 20 was discussed. My staff memorandum, I raised a concern about whether or not there was adequate parking
That's what I was gonna ask. Is there
on
parking?
site.
I didn't see parking for
We didn't
20.
see a parking plan
I
at
didn't
all
see no
for
parking
anything like
plan or
that.
nothing.
No, there isn't. And, you know, if you take 20 to its logical extent, that every student shows up in their own vehicle, as we are all wont to do nowadays, because we all take off and go
Right.
someplace else, then I think that is problematic.
We had a
Uh,
sketch done on it, you should have that, showing where all our parking spots are, and it's laid out there, that was done to scale.
You already got that done? You never presented it?
We submitted it, in part of the package.
Is this it on the
Yeah,
screen?
see the parking areas located on there, that's all there, we have a turnaround there as well, so nobody has to turn around the street.
I don't see nothing set up for 20 cars.
It's all empty space there along, if you can see where it says parking area in our turnaround. When you first come down the driveway on the left-hand side, there's all parking there, and then all along the side there, and it's all cleared for parking.
All right, but you don't have no designated parking spots.
Not like concrete or big peaked out or anything, but areas on the grass they can park.
We have reclaimed asphalt off the side. We don't have painted lines, if that's what you're asking. We have approximately 325 feet from the start of the road up to where the house is, and the parking goes beyond that. So there's plenty of room, and it was discussed at the planning advisory board that they felt that there was no issue with parking and that there was plenty of parking.
Now, where you're gonna give the yoga classes, is that specifically outlined?
It's gonna be in a pen, one of the pens, the existing animal pens, it's in the backyard.
Below the animal pens. Did they submit plans on that?
It's outlined on that as well, showing where the existing buildings are and the pens. Where that shelter is, that's where the pen areas are. It's literally,
Why don't you come on up to the microphone?
So all the classes are gonna be outside? Is that-
yes,
is that what
yes,
it is?
exactly.
All right, so
It's
where
literally
you-
an empty
where you
pen
gonna
that
have the
we've-
classes?
In an empty pen, animal pen.
And an empty animal pen.
Correct.
So you're gonna do the classes in an empty animal pen.
I'm assuming this is gonna be in
It's
the.
similar to goat yoga, if you ever heard of goat
in the
yoga that
summer?
they're doing. Yes,
This will be
exactly.
in the summer.
Yeah, 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 hopefully.
Well, see, we don't know this, you know what I mean?
But that's what I mean, yes, I know, just, yep.
So you're gonna have them in an animal pen, rather.
Yes.
I mean, what, is it gonna be all hay and stuff there?
It's grass, actually, that's existing grass that we have it empty right now purposely so we could do yoga classes in there. And then the other classes that we want to do is like educational classes on farming and livestock and things like that. Obviously, it's just people gathered around talking, so.
All right, well, that's two different things.
Well, that's why we put on there educational classes and we did it as planning as well. It's not strictly just towards yoga classes, it's towards educational classes. I'd rather classify it as that than just specifically yoga, but
Now, educational classes on what?
farming, livestock, how to trim goat hooves, chickens, different things pertaining to that. We participate in the 4-H for kids, but we want to open it up to a wider range for adults that want to learn about taking care of animals and what it's like to be a farmer and hobby farm.
What are the hours of operation gonna be?
We're not going to have set hours. It's going to be by, certain classes that we set up once a month, twice a month, whatever it might be, but it'd be during like day hours
So it'd be
or on the weekends.
weekends?
It could be the weekends as
Saturday
well.
and Sunday?
Yeah, yep.
What about signage?
We're just doing it online, basically.
Outdoor lighting?
No,
How
Yeah.
many students are you anticipating?
up to 20 is what we're looking to have.
Up to 20?
Right.
And how many pigs would be involved with 20 people?
Probably like 4 or 5 pigs possibly.
That's it?
Yeah, yep.
How many pigs do you currently have?
10 full-time pigs.
And how often do they breed?
We do a couple litters a year.
And how many per litter?
Between 4 and 6 is the average. We pretty much have a waiting list before we have our babies is what we try to do, but
How many breeding females do you have?
right now I have 3 breeding females.
And every year you'd only breed 2 out of the 3?
It varies which ones have already had babies, which ones that I have a demand for, which ones I don't have a demand for.
How often can a pig be bred?
Every 21 days, if you chose to.
21 days?
Every 21 days they go into heat, correct.
What's the gestation period?
Yeah.
3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days.
Excuse me, did we finish with the educational part of it, or we
Well, I was
just
just,
jumped right into it?
I just was.
Kind of segued into it? I was just
Yeah,
wondering,
well,
okay.
because she mentioned the goats, I mean,
Okay.
the pigs,
Okay.
so.
All right,
I was just curious,
I
that's
was
all.
looking through
Yeah.
some paperwork and I
No,
just
that's
wanted to-
okay, we can go back to the education part.
Okay, going back to the education part, I don't really understand it. I'm really kind of, you're educating towards,
For example, I just
And-
recently took a class on mushroom foraging. Somebody had it at their boutique shop. I went there. 20 people came to their, her shop, and we learned how to go forage for mushrooms. So that's what we're gearing towards, not mushroom, foraging, but on how to care for animals, or if somebody, to do the yoga classes. So I have a yoga instructor that comes in our backyard.
so
Say-
you're gonna be doing all kinds of educational classes towards different animals.
Correct. And including the yoga with the pigs. But it's not like tons of classes. We don't have a whole outline of them, but I just want to make sure I was clear before the board that it was, if we didn't just do yoga, if we had the opportunity to do other educational classes as well.
I think we just need to be careful that we have a clear frame of reference for what the boundaries of educational instruction is
That's what I'm
going to be,
questioning.
because you don't want to just give a blanket approval for anything that's educational, or somebody could come along, and I say this because special use permits run with the land, unless the board stipulates otherwise, that could,
I
do
wanna
something else
teach
with.
people how to grow weed.
If we could,
You know?
if we could seek, actually, the terminology would be husbandry. So are the classes that we'll be doing, including yoga. So holistic and husbandry is what you could put it in the categories that we'll be doing.
Wow, this is, we're winging this tonight without a lawyer.
The thing is, though, we don't have any clear-cut
No, we don't.
plan for any of this, really.
No, we
You
don't.
know, parking's gonna be in this section over here. We wanna have classes, but we're not sure what kind of classes, and, it's just, there's nothing definitive that you can judge,
Right, that's what I need, you're correct.
you know what I mean?
I'm okay with the parking. I've been up there a couple of different times, recently, going by with the fire, with one of our trucks. And if you come all the way to the left-hand side and go past where the trees are, there's parking all the way against that. So even though he's got an area with a little island in the center there, all of that can be put at the parking. And I know, though I'm not suggesting this, but you could probably put a lot more than 20 cars there.
We had an anniversary party before, and I think it was probably over 50 cars that we had lined up along there, so.
I'm concerned about the safety of the people that are there during their training, during their educational process, what they're actually going to be doing. It appears it's only going to be in the summer when weather is nice, so.
Right, but then it's gonna be on Saturdays and Sundays, so it's gonna inconvene on the neighbors.
There's no noise to yoga.
Well, I don't know, you got people coming in and park on Saturday and Sunday, and there's gonna be a good flow of traffic in and out of there with 20 cars. I'm looking at it.
They can easily pull in, turn around, and drive out, so I'm not worried about anybody backing out onto 117, so.
Okay, that's important, all right, but what I'm concerned with is, this activity's all gonna happen on a weekend.
It's with,
It's an R5 zone, and they only got 3 acres. So it's already.
Classes are about an hour long, so it's not looking at like an all-day event or anything like that for these classes. They're literally an hour-long class.
But how do I define,
But how many classes on a given day would you do?
yeah,
Just
Like
one on a day, like one-a-day class is what we would do.
So would you,
So-
would there be a possibility you could have a Saturday morning 10 o'clock class and a Saturday afternoon 2 o'clock class?
Yes,
Okay.
so you could have several classes a day.
we wouldn't most likely be, we'd only be having like one class a day.
All right, but now, say if you did chickens, so you'd have to have chickens on site.
We have chickens.
You already have chickens. Okay, so you get chickens, pigs, what else? Say if you did cows, I don't know.
Well, we're not gonna bring cows onto the property. I don't know anything about cows, so I would only do what I have.
Goats,
Yes,
So you already have goats on site?
Yes,
When did you get goats?
we've had them since we moved in.
There's a lot involved here.
They had alpacas at one time, they came before.
No,
us.
I
Right,
know,
they
I
came
know
from-
that, but I know when we did the alpacas,
Goats,
Um,
goats were on the original application.
Yeah.
Yeah, goats and pigs.
Yeah.
2012, just like the pigs were.
May I ask a question?
Sure, please.
When you had the alpacas, I don't ever remember any problems arising or, how long did you have the alpacas? Couple of years?
Yeah, at least about 5 years.
And you never had any
No issues at all.
problems?
No,
I find you very responsible people.
thank you.
What I hear, and so I don't have any problems.
So if I could just say a few things. In terms of the yoga, I understand concerns about noise. We're seeking up to 20 people. Doesn't necessarily mean there's gonna be 20 people. Starting with yoga first. Yoga is a very quiet activity. It's not gonna be any different than me having 5 different friends pull in my yard, get out, say hi, get back in the car and leave.
Or have a
We-
cookout every
we-
Saturday.
We've never had noise complaints in the 8 years that we've lived at the property. We're simply looking to extend yoga just like other farms are doing. The only difference being, it involves the pigs that we have on the property. In terms of the educational classes, we've done volunteer work with 4-H. We've actually done volunteer work at this very library. We find it's easier to do it at the farm and help answer questions and gear it more towards adults as opposed to the 4-H in terms of hobby farms. So I know you were joking when you said raising weed. We're simply talking about taking knowledge we have of the animals that we are raising and spreading that knowledge to people who also want to be hobby farmers. That's all we're looking to do. I can guarantee you we're not going to have 12 classes a day. I don't have the energy for that, okay? We're just simply looking to seek the approval so we can start to establish.
Okay, so your time would be like 8 o'clock in the morning? See, I need a time element, 8 to 5.
We wouldn't start until at least 9 o'clock, until after the chores are done, things like that. So not until at least 9. So if we could say between 9 and 5 that we would hold
All right,
classes,
so that's the hours you're asking for, 9 to 5?
9 to 5.
No
that's,
more than,
wait, whoa.
Yep.
You said for classes 9 to 5. But then you talked about tours. They wouldn't start till after the tours. The tours would start at 9 o'clock and classes would be scheduled after tours?
We continue to have farm tours.
Uh-huh,
So those are just by appointment only when somebody wants to come and tour the farm.
okay.
That's completely separate than this that we're seeking. These are classes that we're seeking. So the classes will be between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Okay.
okay, so what you're asking for is from 9 to 5 operating hours, 7 days a week?
If we could, just to cover ourselves. So
That's what you're asking?
Yes.
7 days a week. So it'd be Sundays too, okay. No more than 20 people, all right, how many classes a day?
it's honestly, this is to make extra money for the farm. So we're looking to do it occasionally. It's not going to be a constant ongoing every single week.
I need to know, I need a number,
Per month you want, or,
no, per day.
Per day, what's the limit per day?
oh, say if we did 2 classes per day at the, max, I would say, because like he said, I mean, we don't have the time or the energy and
2 classes per day, 9 to 5, 7 days a week. And you're gonna operate, you say seasonal, what do you call, when you gonna start this?
when it's, everything except for the winter. So spring through the fall. So the 3 seasons of
You're
it.
saying April 1st?
That's early.
No, I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
Well, it's rainy and.
It depends obviously on Mother Nature. So if we could say, March 15th, just
I need
March
it
15th
March 15th
to November 15th.
to November 15th, so 6 months. Okay.
8
months.
8 months.
Something. And you're gonna be doing, okay now, educational classes for I
The-
need to know what
the-
you're gonna do.
Husbandry is what it's called.
Animal-
HUSBRANDRY.
Animal husbandry.
Thank you. Yeah.
Animal husband.
Yes.
Of the animals you currently have.
Yes.
So just, I want to see if I can describe this a little better. So
Okay.
it would be classes relating to hobby, husbandry, and agricultural? Is that?
That's what, yeah. I mean, husbandry is kind of that, but yes.
Well, husbandry is
And
animal
agriculture is
animal
animal
related. Agriculture
Is
is
ag-
plant related.
yes.
So classes related to hobby, animal husbandry, and
Perfect.
agriculture.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
that puts a bound
That
on
makes
it.
a good outline of that.
And like I said, of the animals that you currently have.
Correct. And if it's
Okay.
not an animal that we have, we're not bringing, excuse me, other animals on the property. So.
Okay. So currently you have the goats, the chickens, and the pigs?
Correct.
Anything else?
No. We used to have a miniature donkey at past, so in the near future, if I got another miniature donkey, hopefully that would be okay, but.
Now, do you have, since this is not covered by a veterinarian, do you have on, not staff, but available call and have come inspect your animals?
All right. Are we again starting to segue into
Yeah, let's not go
Yeah,
on
you're
the
right.
the
pig.
kennel
I'm
thing?
sorry.
So let's see if we can at least beat the instructional activity
Yeah, no, you're
category to
correct.
death before we move on. Are we done with
I-
questions on
Unless
that?
the board has other questions.
I don't.
No,
Okay,
I
do you
don't.
want to move on to the kennel question, or do you want to vote on the instructional activity thing?
I'd rather vote on the instructional activities.
Okay,
We've done the fireworks, so let's go on to
Yeah,
the
I
second.
make a motion we vote on it tonight.
Okay,
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
No, wait a minute. It's a special use permit, so, stipulations are gonna be,
well, you're just voting to vote on it tonight right now.
I thought we already voted on the firewood.
We did,
That one's all set.
you've dealt with
Right.
that special use permit.
Okay.
So you're voting to vote on the special use permit for the instructional classes tonight.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So, all right, go ahead.
Okay, so,
All those in favor?
all those, okay, all those approved say aye.
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 Nays, ayes have it.
So now we can have discussion on that special use permit.
Okay. So
Um,
the stipulations
A
we
point-
have,
Just a point of order,
Yeah.
that we approved it with the stipulations that we've added in.
well, that's what I'm trying to figure out what the stipulations
Okay.
are specifically.
9
9 to 5, 7 days a week, no more than 2 classes a day from April 15th.
March
March
15th.
March 15th to November 15th.
Okay,
And that the classes are restricted to hobby-related animal husbandry and agriculture.
With the animals currently on the farm and no, nothing else.
and the yoga,
And the yoga.
The yoga, we're gonna, yes, the yoga, yes.
that's part of the educational piece.
Yes.
Okay,
Right, so 9 to 5, 7 days a week, 2 classes a day, March 15th to November 15th. And that's related to the agricultural and the yoga classes.
And animal
And husbandry.
husbandry.
The husbandry is related to the goats, chickens, and pigs that are on the property.
what is on the property?
Oh,
What is
yeah,
per- what
yeah,
is
yeah,
permitted on the
yeah.
property?
Goats, chickens, and pigs.
With that being said, though, if, like I said, if we have education classes on other animals that are not part of our property, doesn't mean we're bringing them in. So we could have something on, something other than,
Oh, that changes everything.
Well, you're limited by what the zoning ordinance allows you to have on the property in terms of animals for hobby-related farming, based on the acreage of your property. So there are limitations on the number of large animals and the number of small animals. So long as you stay within those limits, you're fine,
okay.
okay? And right now, we don't have an application before us to extend those limits, so the board couldn't vote on that
Okay.
now, even if they wanted to.
Okay, as presented.
Okay, I just want to clarify. So the stipulations on the educational piece are going to be the hobby farming and the yoga, and then the 2 a week, 2 a day, March through November, okay, 7 days a week.
9 to 5.
get that.
Right, yeah. Okay, then the animal husbandry piece is gonna be taken up when we do the pigs.
No,
No.
because she's given animal husbandry classes.
Okay,
So
okay,
she's saying
Gotcha.
agricultural classes,
yep,
but, animal husbandry, hobby farming, and agriculture.
okay, and okay, so what you're saying is that the animal husbandry is going to be geared towards the chickens, the pigs, and the goats?
Right, that's what I was trying to get clarification on.
Okay,
That was
gotcha.
my understanding that it was.
Only what is
The animals currently on the
animals
farm?
currently there, yes,
currently approved in.
okay.
It wouldn't be allowed to bring other animals in that did not fit within the,
Within the
parameters.
town zoning ordinance for
Correct.
permitted uses on the property.
Any further discussion on this?
Well, that begs the question. Bring it in for a day, teach about it, and then it goes back to its home farm?
I didn't think you could bring it in. Oh,
I don't think there's any limitation on doing something like that. So for example, if they wanted to bring in a type of goat or a type of horse for a demonstration or something like that, and it got back in the
Trailer and went home.
and went home, I don't believe there's anything in the ordinance that prohibits anybody from doing
They
that.
wouldn't be able to bring in a horse because they don't have enough land, correct?
If
But
they
that
bring it
horse
in
isn't
for a
living
day
there.
And it belongs to someone else, you can.
You
there's
can do
no-
that,
yeah.
you can do that, yeah, okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure, okay,
All right.
all right,
Okay to
I'm
vote on
clear,
this?
I'm clear, yeah.
All right,
Part three.
Nope, we gotta finish this one first.
Oh, we're not?
We need a roll call vote.
That's what, yeah, that's what I meant, you were gonna do that.
Okay. Russ, how do you vote? on
Approve with
this?
stipulations.
Jenny,
What, we're going-
you're voting on the classes.
Yeah.
Okay, you approve with stipulation?
Yes, with stipulations, yes.
I approve with stipulations.
Approve the stipulations.
Approve with stipulations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. All right, application of that is approved with stipulations. Now, we're going to the last one. The last one is the Julian Pigs breeding and sales. Now, from what I understand, this is gonna actually be like a kennel license, am I right?
This comes in under the kennel special use permit. The definition of kennels in our zoning ordinance specifies dogs, cats, and other animals. We did provide you with a legal opinion from Attorney James Callahan, and he pointed out that in a section of the Rhode Island general laws, pigs actually show up both under the list of livestock and under domestic pets. So it is has been recognized in other circles that this is a recognized avenue of pet breeding and sales. I've provided you with a rundown of our zoning ordinance. Attorney Callahan provided you with a rundown of his analysis of the zoning ordinance. And we both concur that this animal viewed as a non-livestock animal and as a pet can be issued a special use permit for kennels. With that, though, you should undergo all the same considerations you do with any dog kennel in terms of, numbers of animals, how you deal with waste, all of the same questions you ask when dealing with dogs. So,
Okay, starting off with that, now, you propose only 20 pigs at any time on the property.
Correct,
That's including your breeding and everything.
correct.
Was that maximum of 20?
Yes,
Maximum of 20.
yep.
All right,
What's the waste removal plan?
We do a compost pile. So they're vegetarians, so it disintegrates fairly quickly. And then we also have a couple of landscapers that come in and actually use it for fertilizer.
Which is different from dogs, because as carnivores, you can't compost dog waste.
And even though that we sell the pigs, I don't know if this makes, as pets on our property, they are our farm animals. They're kept outside 24, 7, and that's where they live. They live in an outdoor shelter. They live in a pen. So
Where do you get their food? Do you
Tractor Supply.
You buy it?
Yeah, I do. Yep, it's a grain.
It's a grain?
Yes.
So you don't use any kind of scrap food at all?
Fruits and vegetables if we have it, but other than that, that's it. Like
You
they
don't
don't.
bring in any
No.
food waste? or
No.
anything?
Nope. That's a very strict diet and measured and
You're not getting it from any restaurants or
No.
anything like that?
no.
Different kind of pigs, I think.
Yes.
Now, how, I didn't quite understand. Now, these are supposed to be a pet, so therefore you're gonna house them inside the house?
I don't, but people buy them as pets to live indoors or outdoors
Where did you,
because they're not meant to be eaten. So they're not that type of pig.
they're not meant to be what?
You can't eat them.
Can't eat them.
Even if you try to like fatten them up, they're not meant to be ate.
They're meant to be pets.
They're meant to be pets. That's-
Whether they're outdoors or indoors for people.
Where are you gonna house these?
They are outside in pens in shelters. Just like they're farm animals on our property.
Do we have a proposal on how that was set up?
It's on the other one. It shows you where the shelters are currently.
So are those closed-in shelters? Are they lean-tos? Or
Kind of
they-
like lean-tos. One's a Shelter Logic, like a gray shed that we have, and another one's just a portable gray shed.
Okay, so in cold, snowy weather,
They stay out there.
can they stay out?
Yes.
They don't go into like a barn where the door is closed and
A lot
keep
of
them out
hay,
the
straw, and
elements?
like the way it is, it's three walls. So no, they stay in there.
Really?
Yep.
And that's how you would present your classes to somebody that was gonna buy one as a pet?
Outdoors, you mean? And showing them
I
outdoors?
don't know, I mean, how are you gonna house, how are you gonna educate this person to?
Most people that come to us to buy a pig have already done their research, and obviously we'll educate them further on what it's like to take care of a pig, but they know that they can keep them indoors and outdoors. So you can litter box a pig, if you wanted
They
to.
have to. So you're showing them, well, you're keeping them outside, so is that what they would do? Same
Each
thing?
person's individual. Some people will keep them out, some people will keep them in. I mean, I really cannot, like, I have multiple families that have done both, so. I have some that keep them in a barn, I have some that let them in their house,
How long do they live on average?
12 to 15 years,
How big do they get?
between 40 and 50 pounds.
40 to 50?
Yes. More comparable to like an English bulldog is what we like to say is the size of them, as opposed to doing weight.
So if you're gonna do yoga with that pig, you're gonna do it with a piglet. You're not gonna do it with a 50-pound pig while you're trying to, do some sort of stretch or climbing up on your
Well,
back.
it depends what we have, but yeah, I mean, but they're also kind of more timid. It's not like they're not going to come over and try to
Right.
knock you over like a big hog would try to do, but
Okay.
yes.
So the waste, where you keeping the compost, where on the property?
It's way like in our backyard, behind the pens. We have a pile that we rotate and compost it.
So when you say shelter, is there a fenced-in area around the shelter that they stay in?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
A paddock, like a pens, we have it
Yep.
broken up like that.
About
so.
how big?
30 by 20 maybe one might be. So there's
Okay.
different sizes. but-
Okay. And so your waste pile is further back towards the back part of the lot?
Yes.
Okay. Like way at the back?
Not too much way back, like that last shelter that you see, it's kind of, it's behind our last pen.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and it is pretty, it's pretty much odorless. There's no
I
smell.
was just
Like,
gonna
it's-
ask you, how noxious does it get?
It's a dog's stuff is a lot worse than a pig. A pig pretty much doesn't have any odor, but because they're vegetarians once
Yeah,
again.
they
So, yeah.
Pretty much digest everything.
Yeah.
Now, you have wire fencing around, these things can't escape, or?
Right now we currently have like pallet fencing that we're using.
Pallets,
Pallets,
wooden pallets?
wooden pallets.
So you made wooden pallets as fences?
Yes.
So you do not have a specific fence set up for it?
It is. I mean, it's all secured together, and it's pretty much as if we went and bought like wire mesh fencing, which we used to have, but we switched to the pallets because it's stronger and durable, more durable.
Okay, so, and the waste is just someplace in the back, not a designated,
It's a designated spot. We have a pile that we do.
but you
And
haven't put it on the plan.
it's not on there. No, we didn't list the compost pile.
That's very important. Now, how do you educate the people to medically take care of these? Because like I said, like a veteran does not,
Dr. Wietzma, actually, at Coventry Animal Hospital, takes care of pigs. He's one. Then there's one in West Greenwich, which I'm forgetting the name of it right now. Big
River?
Big River, yeah. Big River does it. Tufts does it. Dr. Ennis in Brooklyn, Connecticut does it. So there's several vets, but that is up to the person's responsibility to find somebody to care for their pig.
all right, now how, do you have a doctor, you got a program which your doctor comes once every 6 months and checks these pigs out?
Mine are vaccinated, and once they're cleared of being in good health and stuff like that, that pretty much stays with the farm unless something happens. And then, but they are clear of all diseases.
You have them vaccinated by who?
They don't have any required vaccinations. So if there's no illnesses or no diseases and stuff like that, which there's not.
Well, how do you know there's no disease? No, I mean,
Because we haven't had any outbreaks is the way they look at it. And then in the beginning too, we also had Scott Marshall that had come out and not physically to the property, but gave me all the guidelines and stuff like that, what we had to do to make sure that they were allowed and permitted. And DEM's been out.
so you're gonna have yoga classes with these animals, and because you haven't had no outbreak, therefore you don't have to worry about any problems medically.
Correct. Rabies vaccine is not required. There's never been any outbreaks of vaccine, rabies, so that's not required by the state. There's no state required vaccines for.
Outbreak on your farm or outbreak
in
pigs?
In pigs. And
Okay.
the state of Rhode Island doesn't require any specific vaccinations for pigs. We do a deworming program and we do iron shots. That's pretty much what we do in regular checkups. So.
Now, who monitors this?
Monitors,
you
me
do
being one that I take care of them.
Just you.
Regular checkups, you mean with the vet?
Right, yes.
Oh, all right. So how often do they see the vet?
Once a year is all that's required.
Okay. Pretty much like a dog.
Exactly.
So
Unless something goes wrong, then,
Right.
yeah,
for
yes.
the pigs you have there, you'd have it posted so that somebody came in and checked from the state or from the town, they'd know exactly what pigs have been medically inspected.
Yes, like I said, there's no required vaccinations, so there's not, and there's no reported illnesses or there's nothing that's really required of that.
I think we're starting to stray out of the realm of zoning, and we're straying into DEM's jurisdiction over animals, so I think we ought to leave the
Well, I wanna make sure
vaccination.
that this ain't gonna be a place where people go up there, take classes, and this, we're gonna be spreading something around. I don't know, that's what I'm trying to say.
I understand, but that is an area of the law that has basically been delegated to DEM, not to the realm of zoning boards. So I understand your concern.
But
and
if DEM doesn't do a routine check, then how would it be monitored?
But if the animals see a vet once a year,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
and
I
they
just-
get a, basically,
Because this
a
is gonna be like a
certificate of
dog,
health.
just like a regular dog kennel where we at least have somebody that's gonna fall into jurisdiction of our animal control officer to go up there and check on this once a year, or not?
whatever the animal control officer will be informed that this this address has a kennel license, and I'm sure that she will do whatever she does with every other registered kennel in town.
now, is there a sign that needs to be posted that the animals are not vaccinated for rabies?
We just have a liability sign out there saying feed and touch the animals at your own risk, basically is what we have. But for like yoga classes, there is a liability form that they'll fill out that the yoga instructor has already that, you know, insurance coverage and everything else for them to sign before they participate.
Any other questions? No? All right, I'm gonna ask you to take a seat now. Again, ask if there's anybody who'd like to speak on this application, for or against, or just have a question on it.
I do have another question.
Okay.
So, after the class or either the husbandry class or the yoga class and people have been handling the pigs or the chickens or whatever, do you have a hand washing station for people?
We have sanitation machines set up throughout the farm.
Hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitize, yes.
Like Purell or
Purell,
something
yes.
like that?
Yep.
Okay. But not necessarily soap and water or soap and hot water or anything like
No.
that? Nothing, okay. All right.
I have one thing to ask. Your compost pile. If the board was to set a limit on a minimum distance that had to be from a property line,
We mean it, we're pretty much in the middle of our property,
Okay,
so we're
so-
clear of all the.
how far away from the property lines on either side is it?
I would
Can you
say
show
good
us on the map?
Good 50, like we're,
I mean, if the board says it has,
really like right in the middle.
Yeah, so I would say it's most likely, I would say at least 40 to 45 feet.
all right, so if the board were to say that the compost pile must be kept at least 40 feet from the property line, that would work with what you're doing. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so if this application was approved, it'd be approved with, one, the compost pile being 40 feet away and located at the rear from any property line, correct?
Would you like me to go through the list of
Yes.
stipulations that I heard during that presentation?
Yep.
So I have a maximum of 20 pigs at any time.
That includes the breeding.
Yes, maximum of 20 pigs at any time means a maximum of 20 pigs at any time.
Big or small?
That the waste is composted on site and the compost pile should be maintained a minimum of 40 feet from any property line. The food will not include any imported food wastes. And the pigs will be housed outside in pens and shelters in accordance with the requirements of the zoning ordinance, which require that they be housed a minimum of 25 feet from any property line.
That includes the pen too, correct?
Ordinance says housed, so if they are, allowed to freely roam within the pen at their will, then yes, I would say that the edges of the pen would have to be at least 25 feet from the property line.
We're gonna limit it to the pet pigs, not any other type of pig.
Right, I guess that was one other question. Your application referred to these as Juliana pigs?
I'm going to get.
Yeah. Come on back up. So
There's a breed in itself of a pig, and it's called Juliana. We also have miniature pot belly cross with Juliana. So we have cross and we have Juliana.
So we should have that in there, I think, right?
Yes.
The breeds.
So it's Juliana, and what did you?
Miniature pot belly crossed with a
Miniature pot belly?
Juliana.
Okay. So why don't we just say Juliana, miniature potbelly, and
mix.
hybrid
Yeah.
between those two? Does that cover everything?
Yes.
Okay. So we would be limited to those three types of pigs. That's what I have for stipulations.
How about the termination? Is it gonna terminate?
That's
I
up
would like to
you.
stipulate that it terminates with the sale of the property.
Okay, special use permit terminates with sale of property.
Anything else? Okay, so I have a motion that we vote on this tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? I hear no nays. Okay. At this time here, I'd like to start the vote with Russ. How do you vote on this application?
Approve with stipulations?
Jenny?
Approve with stipulations.
I reject. Denise?
Approve with stipulations.
Okay.
I approve with stipulations.
Application's approved with stipulation. Okay, do we have any other business in front of us tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a motion? We adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it.
The last one was the continued, the noted NOV.
Yeah, the two NOVs,
Still working on those?
we're still working on the Chattel NOV. We have another court date on January 16th.
I did, 'cause
Denise
I was
does
here.
now.
And that was continued through to February anyway at your last meeting.
Yeah. I just-
And the Bamford one was continued through to February as well, and I believe we have a resolution pending on that as
That
well.
was the one on, behind the Cumberland Farms there.
Yeah, up on Knotty Oak. Yeah. Okay? All right, we're adjourned. You can